Hey folks, so I have many updates to bring you up to speed about Morse. Quite excited to share um, several of these. Um, yeah, to get things started, um, the most sought after feature that people have been requesting up till this point, I am happy to announce has been integrated into the game, which is, if we go onto settings and onto keybind, the ability to support VBand. For anyone that isn't familiar, VBand is a piece of hardware that allows communication between a telegraph and computer via USB. This is a pretty popular solution for this kind of communication. Uh, the main problem that has been up to this point is that it uses the control buttons, so control left and control right, as the default, and it's kind of hardwired choices on the keyboard to bind to, which Stencil doesn't have immediate support for, but I'm happy to announce that that is now accommodated within the project. So if I go back to gameplay, and you'll have to trust me that I'm pushing the I'm pushing the left and right key presses, but you can see that I'm able to move around the grid. Have I got these backwards? Yeah. I've got my volume turned down quite low, so it's kind of hard to tell. It's like wardrobe malfunction, but it's fine. But it is working, and if it isn't, give it a go and tell me if it isn't. If there's any other suggestions that people have or preferences, please do not hesitate to get in touch. I really, really appreciate everyone's patience in waiting for this feature to come down the pipe. Yeah, and I appreciate people being willing to stick around till this feature became available. So the next thing I want to talk about is something that's kind of a subtle addition, but hopefully should make things a little bit clearer. So you can see down here at the bottom of the grid, you've got this eyeball and this white line that is kind of splitting the grid. We're currently on expert mode on quite a high level, so you can see that there's quite a bit of grid that we've got. And basically what that's doing is it's giving a visual indication of where the enemies become visible. So once we start the round, you'll be able to see that in action. But yeah, it's basically just something extra to make it more clear about where the player should expect to see enemies, because particularly in the tutorial, a lot of people get caught out by not understanding that the enemies are hidden in the dark, and after a certain point they'll become visible. You're just looking at a blank grid, which is quite disorienting for some people, understandably. So I think that should hopefully help address issues with that. Yeah. So you should be able to see now this in action as I potentially get completely inundated with enemies. The other thing that is very useful for this late game grid is you can see the interface that I'm working with, which has half the interface missing, which is effectively a minimalist version of the grid. And there's two reasons why I've added this. This has come from feedback from the community, which I appreciate people sharing, and that is to not only address. Give me a second. That's not only to address the inability to kind of see down the distance of the grid, which you can see I'm able to do here. Oh, whoops. See quite far down the grid, which in the normal version of the game is kind of blocked by the interface, which gives you quite an edge. And what I like is that if you are proficient enough at Morse code, that is a adjustment you can make that will make the game easier for you because of your knowledge and proficiency of Morse code, which is really nice. So the other element is for people actually learning Morse code. It is, from a lot of common knowledge, better to learn Morse code non-visually. So, rather than having things like dots and dashes when you're learning Morse code, organizations like, for example, the Long Island Morse Code Club, they recommend learning non-visually. So I'm kind of hoping that by introducing this, it'll be more of a compatible tool with people that want to avoid having that visual element to play. So it kind of serves two purposes by having that. I am just about making it through this. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, which I won't be showing here, but 1, 2, 3 dots. Is that I've added an outreach mode, so that kind of ties to what we were talking about there. So basically I want this game to be used by clubs to help bring people into ham radio. I want it to be to serve the community, and with that, I've created a modified mode specifically for use at kind of amateur radio events or museums or arcades or things like that, which is basically a shorter version of the game that is kind of got the functionality that you would need for exhibiting the game at an actual event. So, for example, the ability to reset the game, via pushing both inputs at the same time, having a limited number of levels to kind of not create a big pinch point around the project by having someone try and beat all 20 levels. You've also got things like an attract mode, which not only kind of gives you a little bit of visual spectacle whilst someone's waiting to play, but also a feature that I'm quite chuffed with is I've added an actual kind of call for people to try and locate their local amateur radio club. So, it has an actual kind of message that pops up midway through the attract mode that recommends getting in touch, kind of going onto the IARU website and finding your local club. Oh, I'm about to lose. So I can technically demo this. So so if I close this, and then if I go to the modifiers, and if I go to, so you can see this is the minimalist mode that's listed, and then you can see outreach mode. So if I turn that on now, and if I wait a couple of seconds for the attract mode to start, you'll see that pop up, and just whilst we're waiting, you can see that the interface, the text for the interface, I've turned to font rather than bitmap images. And the reason that I've done that is because when it comes around time to localize, that will make it much easier to populate those languages rather than having to replace individual images. And it also looks much cleaner, which is quite nice. So there's quite a few elements that are specifically kind of intended to make the game more hopefully useful to amateur radio. This is what I was talking about regarding having the kind of demo mode visible, which I'm quite chuffed with. So here's the kind of breakdown of your amateur radio club. What I've also open to, which specific clubs can reach out to me about, is I showed the game in Strasbourg last week, And specifically, I had the local amateur radio club and the National Amateur Radio Club listed in that section. So it was really tailored to local clubs rather than to just a generic, link to a website to find your club. To just kind of add a bit more of a personal touch to the project. So, yeah, that's more or less everything. Thank you so much for your kind of continued interest in the project, and in particular for folks that picked it up during the typing, MORSE during the typing sale. I am incredibly grateful to folks that kind of took a chance on the project, and I'm looking forward to kind of keep working on the game, seeing more unusual telegraphs, using it to do more outreach, and to introduce more people to ham radio. So, just if you've got any other feedback or suggestions, feel free to bob those in the Steam discussions online. And thanks again.